everybody, and welcome to Shelly Palmer Live. It's Wednesday, May 31st. Can't believe it's May 31st, and I am so happy to have everybody here. Welcome. Chat's where it's at, so please just tell me who you are in chat, tell each other what you do, and be ready to have a pretty robust conversation today. It is going to be a pretty exciting Wednesday. Cough, cough, sorry. Hope everybody's doing great. Hope you can hear me okay. Hope the audio's good. Hope everything is good because we've got a lot to cover today. What are we going to cover? I'm glad you asked because there's plenty of it. First, we're going to cover whether or not AI is an existential threat or not. We're going to cover the very singularly dumbest thing I've ever seen anybody do with ChatGPT. We're going to talk about how you can help draft the national AI strategy, which I think is really important. We're going to talk a little bit about what OpenAI is proposing for regulation and what they think should be done to regulate. We're going to talk a little bit about Microsoft's idea of watermarking AI-generated images as well as text and how they might identify it, what's going to go on with Google and the future of search. Then I'm going to show you a couple of the plugins at ChatGPT Plus that I like the most. And we'll talk generally about the things you want to talk about. So if you've got a question, please put it in chat. Joey will throw it into the system here, and I'll be able to put it up on the screen so everyone can see it. And yeah, let's just start there. So today, as usual, we have a POAP that you can get, a proof of attendance protocol token. What is a POAP? It proves you are here. It is an NFT that is absolutely free of charge. You collect 5 of them, and you can come to our online events and our super secret handshake meetings and our in real life events. Today's POAP is available at shellypalmer.com/POAP. And if you have already collected 5 of them, expect to get an email in the next week or so. We're going to be doing a private for our POAP collectors prompt crafting workshop, a little 30-minute online Zoom where you'll be able to hone your prompt crafting skills. We'll be taking some of the super fun best practices prompts, and we're going to put them in a little workshop and seminar. All right, let's get right into it. This morning, I'm watching the Today Show because it's on in the kitchen. Grab a cup of coffee. Life is good. And on comes this segment, Is AI an Existential Threat? And I got to tell you, it was nonsense. It was the biggest mix of scare me to death, Terminator craziness, and pure nonsense I've ever heard. And to their credit, the anchors, Savannah Guthrie and the others, were just trying to get the reporter to just tell them, should we be scared? Like, what's going on here? Is OpenAI to blame? And back and forth they were going. OpenAI is doing this, and so-and-so is doing that. Man, it was just a mess. They missed an important teaching moment. Let's talk about this for a second. If you are not thrilled out of your mind by generative AI, you're crazy. This is like the next thing. The history of humanity has been written by its tools. We started in the Stone Age. The Stone Age, 200,000 years, depending on who you ask. All we know about the Stone Age is that there were some stone artifacts and bearskins that we used to use. About 7,500 years ago, the Bronze Age begins. We don't really know that that's when it happened, except from the record of bronze tools, because language isn't invented till about 5,000 years ago. Roughly 3,500 years ago, you get to the Iron Age. We know a lot of things about the Iron Age. Call it 250-ish, 300 years. The Industrial Age start, depends on when you want to just say that it started. And with the Atomic Age in the 40s, maybe a full generation ago. The Information Age started maybe in the 70s, 60s or 70s, depending on who you ask, half a generation ago. Whatever you're going to call this, the age of AI, it's starting roughly 10 years ago. roughly 2000, well, no, not even. We're talking 2016, 2017, when all the big tech companies got deep into this next level of transformer-based AIs. And look, neural networks and deep learning have been around for a while. Now it has really started to become exponentially better pretty much every morning. The history of humanity is written by our tools. This is the new tool set. If that sounds like hype to you, I'm sorry. It may be hype. There may be some hyperbole in there, but in practice, productivity is the key driver of economic success, and these tools make you more productive. It's just that simple. Much more productive. Not a little more, much more. Now, that said, if you're not also terrified, literally terrified by these tools, you don't understand them well enough. It's just that simple. These are both thrilling and absolutely terrifying. Why are they terrifying? The number one reason, and there are, this morning they were talking about super intelligence and the computer's getting smarter than we are, and they were talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence, which would, in theory, be able to learn any task as well as a human could learn any task. Our technology is not there. There isn't technology like that. You don't need artificial general intelligence to destroy the world. You can do it very well, thank you, with good old-fashioned generative AI and recursively stacking various models to do autonomous tasks. You can absolutely do a lot of damage with the tools we have right now. We do not need Terminator. We don't. We just don't need Terminator to show up in order for us to do terrible stuff. If there is a problem that most scares me, literally most scares me, it's called the alignment problem. And this is something everyone should be considering, and it's going to be the subject of today's whole show, really. The alignment problem goes like this. Let's pretend we wanted to do a sales report right now. And the sales report we wanted to do took this last quarter's sales and summarize them in some way that was appropriate for managerial review. So what we would do if we were going to write a computer program like that is we would start with the output. You'd say, well, what is the sales report going to look like? And you would have, the date, what items sold perhaps, the amount it sold, the percentage of sales, whatever the things are you need to know. Then you would go about programming some kind of either code or maybe you do an Excel spreadsheet, but you would use some tool. Let's say you were going to do it with a computer program. So you'd write the software you needed in order to create your sales report. Very simple. You got input. You're going to calculate this stuff that's in the input, and then it's going to give you the output you want based on what you're talking about. Okay, great. The output of that computer program is 100% aligned with your expectations. You expect a sales report. You started with the output that you expected. You didn't know what the numbers would be, but you understood the format, so that was inside your expectations and fully aligned with them. The input was the data that you gave the computer, so that was fully aligned with your expectations. You could look personally at every single line of that of the data and probably gather in your mind the sales report, unless it was super gigantic. But one way or the other, everything about that process is fully aligned with your human values and your expectations of the output. Everything, the input data, the code you wrote, and the output, all of it is fully aligned with what you expected, and of course with your human values. You're a human being and you want a sales report. Great. This is not true with generative AI. Generative AI is, the way it's being brought to us today is through large language models, which train on giant corpuses, hence large, giant corpuses of data. GPT-3 and most likely GPT-4 were trained on as much of the internet as OpenAI could get their hands on. And they didn't do much other than just teach it by having it look at massive amounts of text. And for the multimodal version of GPT-4 now, they obviously had to train on some images as well, and they had to train on some audio as well. That training may or may not be the input. First of all, can't be understood by humans. It's just too big, right? It's a big data set. It's a large language model trained on big data. So, it's one thing to look at a 10 by 10 matrix in a spreadsheet and understand it because, this is the business you're in and someone's showing you 10 columns and 10 rows and you get it. That's one thing. But if it's 25,000 columns and 250 million rows, you're just not doing it. You're a human being. There's nothing inside a human's capability set that would allow them to analyze big data like that. That's what computers do. So if you train an AI model on 25,000 columns by 250 million rows of data, whatever that data looks like, or fully unstructured, massive corpus of data, the public internet, you can't read it. Can't be read. You're just hoping it's all good stuff or that it gets interpreted. In the case of large language models, they're trying to make a language calculator, something that's going to make some predictions. Are the outputs of that large language model going to be aligned, one, with our human values, and two, with our expectations? No, not necessarily. They may be, but you don't have a way of knowing, which brings us to a story that I think is the singularly dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, with respect to ChatGPT. I'm going to read about this to you because I don't want to mess it up. This was in the New York Times, so we credit the New York Times reporters with this. A man named Roberto Mata sued Avianca Airlines after a metal serving cart struck his knee and hurt him. That is the reason for the lawsuit. Mata's lawyer, Stephen Schwartz, from the law firm of Dumb, Unbelievably Dumb, and Super Dumb, used artificial intelligence. No, they used ChatGPT to prepare the court filing. A lawyer in 2023 used ChatGPT to prepare their court filing. Seriously? Schwartz admitted in an affidavit that it used ChatGPT for his legal research, acknowledging that it had proven unreliable. You think? And of course, the judge described the situation as unprecedented. And why? All of the legal filing, the entire brief, which cited 4 different cases as law. A, the cases were made up, and all the references to the cases were made up. All the precedents were made up. In fact, ChatGPT hallucinated the entire thing. He expressed regret for relying on ChatGPT without checking his math. How did they find this out? Well, apparently the judge's law clerk as well as opposing counsel went to look up the cases, and they didn't exist. Oops. Folks. No. Here's what you do. Here's my favorite graph. This is brought to you by my good friend Barak Turovsky, who used to be a product lead at Google Translate. Barak wrote a wonderful blog post where he put a graph that looked a lot like this, not exactly like this, but a lot like this. So I'm going to give him credit for it because while I modified it, it is inspired by Barak's great insight. High stakes, low stakes, high accuracy, high fluency. So we look low and to the left. High fluency, low stakes. What do I mean by low stakes? I'm writing a birthday card for a friend and I'd like it to rhyme. Low stakes. High fluency, I want it to be flowery. You'll probably ask for it in iambic pentameter, which will be the only rhyming meter you remember from grade school. Shakespeare used it a lot. Awesome. ChatGPT is going to kill it. Kill it when you do that. It's going to be perfect in every way. Up and to the right, you've got high stakes, high accuracy. Like, for example, a legal filing in a court of competent jurisdiction where your license to practice law is on the line as well as the client's outcome. Seriously, that would be considered high stakes, high accuracy. Not a great use of ChatGPT, folks. Somewhere in the middle between, low stakes, high fluency, and maybe the middle of that graph is a fabulous place. Truly a fabulous place. But you don't want to go high and to the right on that graph. You just don't. And if you're wondering where you can find that graph and other stuff that looks just like it, you can go to courses.shellypalmer.com. It is completely free of charge. And there you will find generative AI for executives. Please take the course. We update it all the time. We update it literally 3-4 times a week. It has the latest information that we have, and we do our very best to keep it updated. You will learn about how to prompt craft. You will learn about both image and text AI. You will learn about just the theory behind how to use generative AI, where it's a very good productivity enhancer and where it probably won't be. So courses.shellypalmer.com, a really fun place to go. Talking about the alignment problem, and we are talking about the alignment problem. Oh yeah, folks, I see so many of you here. I see some questions too. Maybe before we get into the next, let me put this question. I owe you some questions. Here's a question coming on the screen. What do you make of Nvidia being $1 trillion company? And that's from Chris C. Chris, Nvidia is a remarkable organization, first of all. They had started going strong with video game cards, graphics cards. Then everybody figured out you could use graphics cards for two other things. You could use them to mine cryptocurrency, which for the last couple of years has been a thing, and then that you could use them for AI, and that's been a thing, obviously. So they are poised to be the go-to company for graphics cards that you would use to do local AI installations, and they're also making cards for all the big cloud services. So all the big clouds are ordering as many Nvidia cards as they can put together, and Nvidia is the beneficiary of those sales. The question I have is, what's it going to do to the sector? Are we going to see AMD get awesome from a valuation perspective? Qualcomm, Intel, are they going to take a ride too? There's a lot of other chip companies, Micron, there are plenty of other chip companies out there, and let's see how they all do. Right now, Nvidia is the big winner in the transition from cryptocurrency to AI race, and that's mostly because their graphics cards, A, are fantastic, and B, they're getting credit from Wall Street. They're getting serious credit from Wall Street. So I don't think much of them being a $1 trillion company, but they do deserve the credit they're getting, and they do. Do they deserve the valuation? That's for the market to decide. It always is. While you're thinking about market deciding, do something for me. Just tweet that you're here. Love you to just do a quick tweet. That would be awesome. At Shelly Palmer is how you do that. You take a screenshot or whatever it is that anything else that you'd like to do to make that happen. That would be very helpful to me. So now let's move on. I want you, every one of you, to help the administration draft the national AI policy. This, to me, is the most important thing we can do as a group. You are obviously some of the smartest people in the whole world. I know that because you're here. You wouldn't be here if you weren't, because this is a pretty eclectic little club that we have here at Shelly Palmer Live, and I truly don't say it enough, but I really appreciate all of you being here. And now what you need to do is you need to go to shellypalmer.com and just grab the link off of this blog post that from Sunday to help draft the national the national AI policy. What the Biden administration did, I really, really, really respect. And there's a link to their PDF file where they're asking all of us to weigh in. And the questions, even if you don't answer all the questions, answer the ones you can. And I'd like you to read all 29 questions. I'm not going to read them all now, but I'm going to read a couple of them to you, just so you can get a sense, like a true sense of how thoughtful they are. Also, by reading these questions, you're going to learn about how to frame this problem in a way you may not have thought of, because they have gone fairly comprehensive. Now, oddly enough, the 29 questions they ask aren't the only 29. There's more. There are far more interesting and important questions to ask, but they've really started strong. I'll read you just question number 1. What specific measures, such as standards, regulations, investments, and improved trust and safety procedures are needed to ensure that AI systems are designed, developed, and deployed in a manner that projects people's rights and safety? Which specific entities should develop and implement these measures? So the government's right out just saying to you, tell us what you think. And all right, let's go deeper into what that is. How can AI, I'm going to that question 5. How can AI, including large language models, be used to generate and maintain more secure software and hardware, including software code incorporating best practices in design, coding, and post-deployment vulnerabilities? This goes on and on and on. I'll find another one. Question 11. I'm just pulling these at random. I didn't prepare these as I'm not cherry picking these, just grabbing them as I see them. How can the United States work with international partners, including low and middle income countries, to ensure that AI advances democratic values and to ensure that potential harms from AI do not disproportionately fall on global populations that have been historically underserved? Yeah, okay. Now, some of this stuff is a little bit nationalistic. What steps this is question 16. What steps can the United States take to ensure that all individuals are equipped to interact with AI systems in their professional, personal, and civic lives? Question 20. What potential harms and trade-offs might come from leveraging AI across the economy? How can the United States promote quality of jobs, protect workers, and prepare for labor market disruptions that might arise from the broader deployment of AI in the economy? I love these questions. I like every single one of them. There's not one question in there that's making me sad, and I would really, really appreciate it. As an American citizen, as a citizen of the world, as a human being, we are now living in a world where we have intelligence and we have intelligence decoupled from consciousness. We need to get a handle on what AI should be to us and how it should be regulated, if it should be regulated, and if so, what should that regulation look like? You want to get a good line on this, go to shellypalmer.com/AI. There are a ton of free resources there. You can, we've got some case studies, we've got some prompt crafting help, we've got access to the courses that we've created that are all free. There's, absolutely no advertising on these pages. It's basically there just to help you out. If there are questions you have about AI, if there are questions you have about the resources, you can always just directly email me. Just send an email to shelly@shellypalmer.com with your AI questions or your coding questions or whatever. We'll do our very best. I'll do my very best to answer them. So, yeah, the resource page is shellypalmer.com/AI. There's a lot of cool stuff there, and I hope you'll take advantage of it. Moving along, we've got an interesting proposal from OpenAI. They went and they proposed their own ideas of what that regulatory would look like. And I'll read from this just so that I don't misquote them. They want a body to oversee the development efforts for companies that exceed a certain capacity or threshold. They want some regulatory body to inspect systems, to require audits, and to test for safety and compliance. They want also that body to impose restrictions on whatever associated or potential risks might be associated with AI. So they laid out a framework, a regulatory framework. Now, my take on their request is really cynical. And I'm basing my cynicism, and I am pretty cynical about OpenAI's request for regulatory, on the way that social media was summoned to Washington. And you had Mark Zuckerberg up on the Hill, and you had everybody from Snapchat, and we had everybody from Twitter, and they had everybody from everywhere. And I guess Mark Zuckerberg was the punching bag for everybody. They had Adam Mosseri up there from Insta. Oh my goodness, that Adam Mosseri there. And look, Instagram. I don't have to tell anybody here that my feelings about Instagram are not great. I feel like there are young girls everywhere who have been mortally damaged by Instagram. And my love of Insta would be zero at the moment. Yeah, there's plenty of great things you can do with Instagram, but mostly it's not worth what it's done to the young women and young men who use it. Too young, to be fair. But when they brought all these social media people to the Hill, all of the people in the hearings, the elected officials grandstanded and made speeches that some were complete nonsense and some clearly were written by their staffers, because I don't think this particular group knew anything about what they were talking about in any way. And then nothing happened. And then, Zuckerberg, I'll just use him as the poster child, called for regulation. Please regulate us. Well, of course, Mark. I'm happy to regulate you now. You already have all the data. You already have all the systems in place. So what you'll do by being government regulated is you will prevent any small company or startup from ever being able to achieve anything the size of Facebook, and you'll get away with whatever you get away with because you already have the systems in place to get away with it. So when you get someone like Sam Altman going to Capitol Hill and gets in front of a congressional hearing and says, please regulate us, you'll forgive me for kind of like rolling my eyes and going, seriously? You're asking for regulation? Oh, what a surprise. OpenAI is the fastest growing website with 873 billion users this month. They've come up 50% in the last 30 days. They will certainly be the number one visited website within a very short period of time. Is anyone going to catch them? Please regulate us. We want to be regulated. No, I'm sorry. That is just nonsense. It sounds like nonsense. It is nonsense. And I'm not playing. I'm just not playing. Let's see. Who asked this question? Eric M. Should we use ChatGPT to answer the AI policy questions? No. Did I wait too long to answer? No, I don't think we should. I don't think ChatGPT is going to give you an answer that's emotionally satisfying and or satisfying. What it can do is give you a framework for how to frame the questions. There isn't right now, in my humble opinion, a problem articulating the problem. I don't think that anyone schooled in the art would have any trouble sitting down and over 2 hours telling you what's going on. I mean, the alignment problem is going to be number one. Hallucinations, which is a terrible term of art. The large language model making stuff up would be a much better way to say it. But one way or the other, the large language models hallucinate, which is the term of art for making stuff up. Unless you check your sources really deeply, you don't know whether it's making stuff up or not. Now, just a quick aside, the more subject expertise you bring to ChatGPT or ChatGPT Plus, which is what you should all be using, the better off you're going to be. But if you're not schooled in the art, or you're not a subject matter expert, and you tend to believe what you see, you're going to be very disappointed, very clearly disappointed. Remember, this chart is real. High stakes, high accuracy, maybe not your tool. High fluency, low stakes might be your tool. The closer you get to high and to the right, the greater the chances you're going to be in a territory you want to be in. So we can articulate the problem. It doesn't always tell you what you need. It doesn't always give you the right answer. And it's not necessarily aligned with your human values. Now, ChatGPT is just one tool. There's the amount of AI, and this is the part that drives me crazy, the amount of AI that's behind the scenes that you don't see, that's just working, little AI models that have been coded completely opaque to you. No feedback loop, no way for you to know they're in place, no way for you to understand how to change it. And I'll give you an example. Let's pretend that you had a bad week and your a close relative was ill and you didn't pay your bills because you couldn't get home and you paid them all 5 days late. And this all got reported to the credit bureau. And you don't think much about it. You see your credit score goes down 30 points or 40 points and they tell you it's temporary, so you don't think that much about it. The second month it's still down 30, 40 points or 50 points or 100 points because it could be literally one delinquent bill. One delinquent car payment can take 100 points off your credit score. I can tell you that from lived experience, and it was a mistake that they should have fixed. They didn't fix it. It took 6 months for them to fix it, for my credit score to go back up. I don't rely on my credit score for anything, but if people who do, who think they do, would be really severely damaged. Now, that's not the AI part. The AI part is that there are a lot of companies who aren't allowed to ask you a lot of questions. Like, for example, when you go for a job interview, there are some questions that are simply not allowed. And whether that's right or wrong, that should be a policy debate you have with someone who's not me. But there are questions they're not allowed to ask you. So what do they do if they need the answers to these questions in order to determine whether you're the right candidate for the job? Well, illegally, to be fair, but very often, your credit score is used as a proxy. But you don't know that. They don't tell you that. And AI is actually using the credit score, not a person. It's just throwing stuff into the mix. Third-party data subscribed to that's used to figure out Are you worthy of being hired? Are you worthy to get a loan or a mortgage or whatever it is that you're trying to apply for, where someone is using an AI tool to go scrape the web, grab the available data, and create a profile or use your profile, which is created by others, and you have zero transparency into that. You have no feedback loop. You have no way to know what cost you this. You have no way to know anything. That, to me, is super highly dangerous AI. And there's not a word of this being talked about anywhere. Everyone's talking about ChatGPT and GPT-4 and the large language models because everyone thinks that AI was invented on November 30th, 2022. Folks, it wasn't. We've had some version of machine learning going on since the late 50s. And there are a frighteningly large number, and I mean a frighteningly large number, of highly specialized artificial intelligence models, AI models, neural networks working day and night behind the scenes that you have no clue about. And this requires us to understand more about it. So we can articulate the problem. Anyone schooled in the art certainly can. The solution? Well, it's going to start with immense transparency. Where did you get the training data? And what training data are you trained on? And I'm not talking about copyright protection, which Microsoft wants to get involved in right now. Microsoft is saying, look, every time we generate something, we're committing ourselves to creating a watermark, an invisible watermark that's going to let anyone know that your AI, your content, whether it's text or images or audio, or video, has been generated by a machine. I think that's a good start for the output. Now, what about the input? People are under the misconception that if you train on your stuff, that somehow your copyrighted work or your sovereign work or your creativity is being infringed upon. It's not how the models work. The models work on gigantic corpuses, large language models, whether they're working in text or audio or video or images. All of these models work the same way. They're looking at giant corpuses of data. If you took all of Bob Marley's reggae music out of the training set, AI would still know from the rest of the reggae that exists, which are millions and millions of songs, that this is reggae, this is the genre of reggae, this is how you make it. Bob Marley would, taking all of Marley's catalog out, would impact it zero, not at all. If you took literally every, it doesn't name the artist, take all their work out. Are there 5 artists in all of history, audio, video, film, that haven't been knocked off and built upon to the point where you just wouldn't need their original work? So, yeah, this is where we are. I think that articulating the problem is pretty simple. I think the solutions start with transparency in training, and go from there. I would again ask you, if you wouldn't mind taking some time out of your day, just run over to shellypalmer.com. The URL is way too long. Both our URL and the URL from the government is like way too long to put here. It's not clickable. So just go to shellypalmer.com. It's last Sunday's blog post, or just search "Help Draft the U.S. National AI Strategy" and at the shellypalmer.com site, and you'll get to it. There's a link there for the PDF. They're telling you it when they want it, how they want it, where to send it. Please, just do it. I mean, just get involved, and read these questions. These are good questions, and they're fun. I promised everybody that I would do a favorite prompt and some favorite plugins today, because people are asking. Kelly C. Yeah, this is the Kelly C. question. It was the very first question. What's my prompt crafting tip this week? So let me take you over to, this is GPT or ChatGPT. It's version 4. I've got a plugin enabled. Don't worry about this prompt, but do worry about this. This is really, oh, I'm sorry. Don't worry about this prompt, but worry about this. This is what I want to show you. And if you can't read it, I will read it for you. The prompt is about, you're acting as Shelly Palmer, whose work you're familiar with. To refresh your memory, he's a technology blah, blah, blah. I wanted to write an 850 to 900 word blog post. That's what I'm asking it to do. Its task is to read the following link or links. I'm going to give it a couple of links. And I wanted to, this is the part that's really important. Let's work this out step by step to be sure we create a great blog post. Now, if you add this single sentence to the end of every single prompt where you want something worked out, what it's going to do, well, twofold. One, I can kill two birds with one stone here. I'm using a plugin called Link Reader. And what Link Reader does is it goes out to the internet and literally reads a link, which is amazing. And what it does is it goes and grabs the data off that website, and then it finds the content, which is great, and it brings all the content into the prompt. Link Reader is going out to this one as well, so it's going to go grab the GitHub repository. It's going to go read the README there, whatever else it can find in plain text, and you can see it got there, and it went and found it all, so that's cool. And then the last link I asked it to read for this was just another thing about private GPT. I ended up not using this for anything, but I'm just using just to demonstrate here, because I didn't use this to write the post. But here's the important part. Based on the information gathered from the 3 links, let's outline the blog post. This is where ChatGPT, using this part of the prompt, and I'm just going to, pardon me for just scrolling up very quickly, where I said to it, let's work this out step by step to be sure we create a great blog post. Well, what's the step-by-step we're talking about? And in this case, here, ChatGPT is based on the information gathered from all 3 links. Let's outline the post. So here it's going to literally step-by-step tell us what it's going to write. So this is the title it's proposing about private GPT. And it's going to have an introduction. It's going to talk about what it is. And this is the outline it's going to use to write the blog post. It's a fairly decent outline. And now it's going to proceed to write the blog post. So I wrote, okay, the outline's perfect. Make it any length necessary, go. And here it is. It started after I told it I'm loving you, go. And I told it to insert an image tag wherever it needs an image. So I asked it to, indicate wherever it needed graphics or screenshots, just because I wanted to see if it would do it. So it gave it a good title, and then it started to write, and it gave it some subheads, which a nice blog post would have, and then it says, "Hey, put a image right here about the private GPT architecture," and then it writes a little more, and it says, "Put another one here about document ingestion," and then it writes a little bit more, and it says, "Yeah, here's the question answering process. Throw that in there." So as you can see, this thing wrote a much better blog post than it ever would have written if I just told it to do a blog post. And by using my absolutely favorite prompt, being Link Reader, it went out to the internet. It read the it read the 3 links I wanted it to put together, literally read the 3 different blog posts, actually 1 GitHub repository and 2 blog posts. So it actually read the README from the GitHub repository, and it built a very compelling blog post. Still needs to be edited. Of course it needs to be edited. You can't use these individually. Now, it wasn't making anything up. It's not going to hallucinate because it's using data from 3 different links. And it's citing its sources. So if I were to have used this as an actual Shelly Palmer blog post, which I didn't, but if I was going to, I would have, as I do in every blog post where I cite other sources, I would have turned them into links. It's okay, here's the Git repo, because you see that all over shellypalmer.com, or here's the blog post that this was either inspired by or lifted from, and we always give credit because attribution is important. We expect it from people who take stuff from shellypalmer.com, and so we give it willingly and openly. That is a really super cool plugin. Just in case you haven't, let me go here. In case you haven't done this yet, let me go back. So this is just ChatGPT, the paid version. You go to GPT-4, And here you have the default mode, browse with Bing. This will go out to the internet and look for stuff. So if you select browse with Bing and then you just ask for stuff here, it'll go out to the internet to find it. If you put a URL in, it'll go visit that. And then they have this thing, plugins. And plugins, again, this is the paid version. I've only got one plugin active at the moment. You can have up to 3. Music notation I've used. It's actually kind of fun for MIDI files and stuff. Ask Your PDF allows you to put a PDF file in as opposed to text, which is really helpful. Chat with PDF is the same thing. It allows you to query a PDF document. Prompt Perfect I like. It actually recreates your prompt, rewrites your prompt to make it better. Link Reader I just use all the time. I find that to be the best of all of the tools. There's a couple others here. Wolfram I like a lot. What Wolfram will do is it gives you the ability to do calculations, which are critical. Zapier or Zapier, I never know how to pronounce that, allows you to directly integrate with Zapier or Zapier to make your zaps. The Instacart thing is exactly what you think it is. It gets out to Instacart. So there are about 80 plugins. My favorite is flat out Link Reader because it does exactly what you say it says it's gonna do. It goes out and reads links. So if you need to read links, that's your tool. Prompt Perfect is kind of fun. It rewrites prompts, but I think if you always follow the normal prompt guidelines, tell ChatGPT what it is, tell it what its target audience is, tell it what you want, and of course now always add this theory of mind idea that says let's work this out step by step to ensure the best outcome. And that's always going to get you better work. Also, you can edit what you're asking it at the end of that experience and say, look, I need different, I like your theory, but in item number 3, change it to blank. And you can coach it and say you don't like its theory or you don't like the way it's going to approach stuff. Again, you can get this week's POAP at shellypalmer.com/POAP. That's where you get your proof of attendance protocol token and collect 5 of them, and you get to come to all our super secret handshake stuff. Of course, I'd love you to talk about us on Twitter as best you can. If you are thinking about this subject and you want to get great at it, completely free of charge, you can go to courses.shellypalmer.com and take Generative AI for Execs. If you have anything you want to know or stuff we should add or stuff we should cover, just feel free to reach out. Shelly at shellypalmer.com is my email address. I am always totally happy to answer your emails and we'll do our best to add whatever tools you need us to add. We're happy to try to do that. We try to do case studies and prompt crafting tools and all the stuff you would need to be more productive. I would truly appreciate it if you just tell me who you are and what you do in chat and just reach out and let me know you're here today. I see a giant audience for us anyway today, and I'm really happy to have all of you here. Last question that we can, oh, this is a great question. Am I excited about Apple's AR VR headset? Am I? And that's from Ken G. I can't wait to spend $3,000 and give it to Tim Cook. I just can't. That's disingenuous. But actually, I will place an order for it, and hopefully I will get it. Apparently, they're only making about a few 100,000 of these. They're not making millions of them, and they're theoretically supposed to be for people who are experimenters and people who are developers. So we'll see. I'm very excited about it. I have been excited about it since I learned of its launch, and I think Apple has always proven that they have a special take on this whole thing, especially with Magic Leap kind of leaving the business. Samsung tried really hard. Google didn't give it, they gave it a high school try with Google Glass. So I think this is going to be amazing, or it isn't. And either way, we're going to learn something great. Like, either this is going to take the world by storm and we're going to see the future and believe that this is the future, or it isn't. It's hard to know how it's going to go. If there is anything I'm sure of, it's that it'll be beautiful, because Apple does beautiful, beautiful work. As you know, folks, This is 100% my favorite time of the week. I love spending time with you. I so appreciate all the comments and the vibrant chat that goes on. Again, please feel free to email. Anything we can do for you, you let us know. Have a super safe week, and I am really looking forward to seeing you next time right here, 12:15 on Wednesday. We'll see you soon. Take care.